watching the award-winning GHS TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of GHS TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm your host, Ternyce Anderson. Each week in this time slot, we take a look at different issues, personalities, and events that affect you and our community. November is Native American Heritage Month. It was established in 1990 by former President George H.W. Bush to celebrate the culture, contributions, and accomplishments of Native Americans. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are nearly 7 million Native Americans in the U.S. today, with 574 federally recognized Native American tribes. Here in Tennessee, more than 42,000 people of Native American heritage call the state home. Today, we are honoring Native American Heritage Month by exploring their roles in Tennessee's history. Rose McKeithen, a representative from the Native American Indian Association of Tennessee, joins me now. Ms. Rose, thank you so much for doing this interview with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Our state name, Tennessee, comes from the Cherokee word, which means where the river bends. Can you tell us about the Native American history in Tennessee?
Native Americans in Tennessee are just starting to be recognized again. When the Lands Act took place, when Andrew Jackson became president, they literally removed all of the native Tennesseans. There was, if I recall correctly, there were 9 different bands who actually called the state of Tennessee home. But a lot of people don't realize that. So it's really important that we start recognizing the contribution that they made to the state.
More than 42,000 people with Native American heritage call Tennessee home. Since the infamous Trail of Tears in 1838, there's been no central gathering place, no circle in which to join, and no grounds to share a culture.
As you just mentioned, there were a handful of Native Americans that called Tennessee home. Can you name a few?
Right off the top of my head, there was the Yukai. I'm like drawing a blank. I just went over this, but yeah, there's actually a proclamation that the governor did where it actually names all of the natives that are being recognized in the state of Tennessee.
The Trail of Tears runs throughout Tennessee. Remind the viewers of the significance of the Trail of Tears and what led to it.
The Trail of Tears is actually an event of decimating Native people, and it was done to gain control of the land that Native Americans lived on and so forth. It cost a lot of natives their lives. The arduous journey just decimated entire families and tribes. And through that act, we lost a lot of our culture, our heritage, and all of it was simply for the land.
What is it like to live in Tennessee today?
Tennessee is a really awesome state because the cultural differences here, everybody has a place which is really unique because we can learn diversity through the culture, the history, the differences in Tennessee. You have Native American music through powwows and things like that. We have country music. We have the Black museums. There's so much cultural relevance in the state of Tennessee that you can literally find out anything you want.
What is life like living as a Native American today?
Living as a Native American today is a whole lot different than back when all of this stuff started with Native Americans. Back then, Native Americans were seen as interlopers. We were considered to be non-human. We were religious pariahs. There's a great, vast period of time in American history where natives didn't identify as native because it was difficult and you were ostracized if you said you were native. Native Americans weren't even federally recognized until the 1970s as being a part of humanity by the federal government. So now with kids today, a lot more people are becoming aware of their native roots. And so one of the things I like to do is I like to explain what being native means. It's not just a one line to get somebody's attention. It's a connection to people, the environment, how everything in life is connected. And so it's a very fine line between native culture and what I call colonization. Native Americans are very family oriented. And so when you move them away from their people, they become lost because we all count on our extended family for support and things like that. And so when you go out into the world, as they say, and become a educated Indian, it plays a real role in how you are perceived in society and how you can keep your culture alive, but still maintain relevance in the modern world.
What can others do to help celebrate Native American Heritage Month?
We just had our annual 40th powwow, which was really amazing. And like I like to tell everybody, the turnout for our powwow was so incredible. It was really beyond anything that we wanted. But as I stated to a number of people who asked me about it, our powwow was like people got permission to go out and live again. And through music and dancers and just the community family connection that the powwow brings, a lot of people came for the first time. A lot of people came because we had to cancel last year's. But the one thing I always tell everyone, when you want to support the native culture in the state of Tennessee, NAIA is building a cultural center. And it will be the first of its kind in the state of Tennessee to recognize that there is still Native culture here.
Well, Ms. Rose, thank you so much for having this interview with me. I learned so much today.
Well, thank you for having me.
To find more information about the Native American Indian Association of Tennessee, visit their website, naiatn.org. We have to take a short break, but when we come back, find out how Native Americans are preserving the past while looking towards the future.
GHS TV started in 1982, and it was just a couple of cameras, a couple of on-air personality, and it's really grown into what you see today. It's a multi-million-dollar studio with top-of-the-line technology.
Being able to operate, all of the machinery in the control room, being able to use all of our software and hardware that we have around the studio, is a great skill because this is top-of-the-line equipment.
I feel like this class has brightened my horizon. It's something that I never thought I would be doing, especially as a student.
GHS TV is probably one of the most hands-on experiences a student will ever get in their lifetime.
Welcome back to Crosstalk.
Nothing really has just the vibe that we have here.
Especially after you finish, you get a real rush of, wow, I just did that.
By the time a student graduates from Germantown High School, they will know pretty much every position there is, from producing to directing to on-air work.
You learn time management, you learn organization, you learn how to work with people, how to better communicate with people.
We put a lot on them, and they have to be able to have the responsibility and the knowledge to get everything that we ask them.
I had very little experience, so in the past 3 years, the skills that I've learned have absolutely exponentially grown.
The class has actually helped me figure out that I want to go to college for journalism.
When a student graduates, they are the best possible version of themselves that they can be.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. The Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians is one of the United States' original First Nations. They are the only federally recognized American Indian tribe living in the state of Mississippi. I'm excited to learn more about them with Missy Brescia and this year's Choctaw Indian Princess, Shima Crosby. Miss Shima and Miss Brescia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Shima, congratulations on your recognition. What does it mean to be crowned the Choctaw Indian Princess?
For me, it was always a dream. Like, I grew up watching the Choctaw Indian Princess, and now it's crazy to be her, and as well as just holding the respect as well as the pressure and just the title itself. I'm so proud, so thankful to make everybody else in my tribe proud.
Ms. Brescia, I know that beliefs vary from tribe to tribe, but can you tell me about the beliefs of the Choctaw tribe?
Well, we have many and plenty. Right now, a lot of the beliefs that, I think that you're talking about, we are highly Christian and we have Christianity, but we do have our culture in terms of the dancing, the language, beadwork, as you see Shima's wearing here, the dress. And so we do have, we still have our culture that we're proud of, extremely proud of.
As you just mentioned, you mentioned something about the dress. Can you tell us some more information about the ceremonial dresses and what they mean?
Okay, this is our traditional Choctaw dress. And a lot of times back in the day, back in the olden times, they would use more of a floral pattern and a rit-rat design rather than our traditional diamond designs, which these were actually used to represent and honor the eastern diamondback rattlesnake, which during the agricultural times would protect our crops. And so back then we would just use what was at hand to us. And now we use all sorts of materials and like satin and sparkle satin and velvet, and just the creativity that you can see within these dresses today is just amazing.
And the dresses are worn typically at events. Yes. So we have our Choctaw Indian Fair during the summer in July. And then our schools have spring festivals. We also have the Green Corn Festival for our younger generation. And so that's where we see the dresses. We don't wear them every day unless you're an old elder and you've gone back to the days of wearing those rick-rack dresses. But they are important to us because of what they mean and the families that put them together, the beadwork that you get and hand down, the dresses that you get handed down. Like I have dresses for every age group, and those are dresses. We still have shirts for the men, and they wear beadwork as well. So again, these are usually worn during events, special occasions.
Speaking of special occasions, it seems that in ceremonies, things are very intentional. Can you tell me some of the rituals that you all do in ceremonies?
We don't. Unfortunately, as a tribe of one of the tribes of first contact, so we're one of the 5 civilized tribes. And so we're one that the Spanish and the French kind of got to us first. And we lost a lot of our quote unquote rituals. And, you know, we've picked up Christianity for sure. But one thing that we've always had is the music and the chanting that we do. There is a chant we have our dances that we have. We have 3 main dances. We have social dancing that is just like fun, friendly dancing. And then we have animal dances, and those are especially fun, like the raccoon dance, you know, this imitating raccoons playing in the woods. And then we have a snake dance, so imitating the snake. And then we have war dances. And we're one of the only tribes where both men and women dance the war dance. But all of that is surrounded by and the beat of the chanting. And so that, and the chants have always been around. We have them at, you know, funerals. There's going to be somebody who will chant when they're out by the fire. So unfortunately, we've lost a lot of our traditional rituals, but, you know, we make do with what we have now. And again, like, we are super protective of what we have now. We don't want to lose it.
Food is the center of all cultures around the world. Can you tell me about some of the food that you all have?
Oh, okay.
You take this
we
one.
have hominy, which is like one of the main foods, and it's like brought to every little event that we have going on. And usually with hominy, you eat fry bread, which isn't very cultural to us, but you'll find it across every single Native American reservation. We also have banaha, which is kind of similar to a tamale, which could also go into play with how we were colonized by Spanish. And so we take that as a part of ourselves. And hominy is just dried, hominy is dried corn, or tanchi, which is what we like to call it. And then you usually cook it over a fire outside. And it's like cooked for hours and hours, and you can add any kind of meat that you would want. You would add chicken or pork or beef, or just maybe all of them all together.
Yeah, that would be good too.
Yeah, and yes, anytime anybody comes over, that's the first thing we usually give them, some hominy with fry bread.
Yes. So come on down.
Well, thank you all so much for speaking with me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
It is time for our final break. When we return, we will explore the significance of Memphis's own ancient Native American site, Chucalissa.
We see the potential in every single student.
That sounds like a confession to me.
I love watching these kids as they start as freshmen in high school and watching them mature and grow.
At last, my right arm is complete again!
The theater program at GHS, it's something special.
Is very intensive, it's very interactive. When a student starts here their freshman year, they start with Introduction to Theater. And after that year, they have a choice to either go into acting or technical theater. And then after that, they join our production workshop class. It's the class that is completely run by students.
The students do mostly everything. We build the sets, we do lighting, we make the costumes, we do the show.
We've got magic, we've got power.
It's very fun. I mean, everybody's very supportive of each other.
Now we're all in this together. It's taught me so much about how to act and how to have a stage presence.
Not only are we teaching the students the skills that they need to be a great performer or a great stage manager or a wonderful lighting designer, we're teaching them skills that they're going to be able to apply to whatever they do in their life.
God bless us, everyone.
this department not only makes wonderful theater, but more importantly, this department makes wonderful people.
I won! I'm good! Get used to it!
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm Ternyce Anderson. Before Europeans came to America, Native Americans flourished along the mighty Mississippi River. Evidence of this can be seen at the prehistoric Chucalissa archaeological site here in Memphis. In the area, it is now called the C.H. Nash Museum. Joining us for our final segment is Emily Neal, Administrative Assistant and Tour Coordinator of the C.H. Nash Museum at Chucalissa. Miss Neal, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
The fact that Chucalissa is still standing today is a testament to the Native Americans who made it. Can you tell us about them?
Yes, so this is a prehistoric site. They settled here about 1,000 years ago, and then over the next 500 years, there were 4 different periods of occupation where people would live there for a few decades, move away, come back, move away, come back. The style of farming that they practiced would kind of deplete the soil quickly, so they weren't able to stay here continuously, but it does seem to be the same cultural group coming back 4 different times.
What is the purpose of this site?
Well, our primary function now is educational. So over the years, there were a lot of excavations done out here. We're under the University of Memphis umbrella. So they had field schools for students studying history and archaeology. But that's pretty much finished. So today, our focus is very heavy on educating any visitors interested in learning about Native cultures, past and present.
What drew the Mississippian tribe to the Mississippi River Valley?
Well, we seem to be in a really good spot for farming. So we're up on the bluff, and then they would go closer to the river for their farms. These sites popped up all along the Mississippi. As far as like why they chose this specific site is kind of hard to say. We don't have any written records from them, so hard to say, you know, a lot about their motivation. Mostly what we have is the physical remains that show us kind of their lifestyle out here.
When was Chucalissa discovered?
It was found in the 30s. This was originally going to be part of Teofuller State Park, and they were digging swimming pools out here when they rediscovered the village and set this part of the land aside for archaeologists to excavate.
Where does the word Chucalissa come from, and what does it mean?
It's a modern Choctaw word. So there are several tribes descended from the people who lived here. The Choctaw are one of them, and Chucalissa means abandoned houses in their language.
Chucalissa was discovered in the 1930s, but when was the museum established?
The museum shows up around the 1970s. It was open for visitors to explore the excavation site prior to that, but the building we have now is, I think, 1975.
What can we learn from this museum?
Well, we have 2 exhibit halls. So one covers the Native history and culture. So we have artifacts that were found out here. We also have exhibits designed by Choctaw and Chickasaw that kind of tell more about the historic period and more recent history. And then we've also got an exhibit hall on the African American cultural heritage of the Southwest Memphis area. Because the village was abandoned 500 years ago, many other people have lived here since then. So we also have exhibits kind of showcasing what happened later.
Why is it important for people to see this museum?
Well, the Native Americans have been here for tens of thousands of years. If you really want to learn about Memphis history, you got to start at the beginning. So Chucalissa is the oldest museum site in Memphis, and then, of course, brings it all the way up to the present, but heavy focus on the prehistoric.
What kind of artifacts can we see from this museum?
So mostly what has survived over 1,000 years is like the stone tools and weapons that they made, and their pottery. And we do have a lot of replica items that kind of demonstrate like how their clothing and things looked as well. And then of course the Choctaw and Chickasaw exhibits have more recent artifacts. And then in the historic, we have a lot of items from a homestead. So you can see kind of the 1800s typical like tenant farmer house in Memphis.
Is there anything special that you all do for Native American Heritage Month?
We have two big events every year. We kind of focus more on Earth Day and Archaeology Day in October. But we do have tours year-round, so we try to celebrate Native heritage all the time. Groups can come out Tuesday through Friday on field trips, and then Saturdays we have walk-in tours at 10 and 2. Anybody's welcome to jump in and join those.
As you just mentioned, you said something about kids visiting for the museum. Can you tell us some of the activities you all do with the kids?
Yes, so we have a hands-on archaeology lab where students can kind of participate in a mock dig and see how we study sites like this. We also do a tour of the village. We have a scavenger hunt we do in the exhibits. And then group leaders choose from a variety of programs, but we have a drumming across culture where they can play some Native American instruments. We have sports and hunting where they can try their hand at a prehistoric weapon called an atlatl. And then a number of archaeology programs that kind of focus more on the science of studying history.
What is something you want people to take from this museum after visiting?
I think one of the most common comments that we get is that, well, first of all, people didn't know that we were here, but also that they didn't realize that there were still Native Americans in the Memphis area. So I think probably the most important lesson here is that Native Americans are still around and that their culture has changed over time. Because a lot of people come in expecting a certain thing, or they think that there really aren't many Native Americans left. So I think probably the biggest takeaway would just to be that there are hundreds of different tribes, each with a unique culture, and that they're still very much present in America today.
Well, Ms. Neal, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me.
To learn more information about the C.H. Nash Museum at Chucalissa, visit their website, memphis.edu/Chucalissa. I want to thank both of my guests for joining us for the Native American Heritage Month. I learned a lot, and I hope you did too. For more information on our programming, please check us out on the web at ghstv.org, where we are streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Ternyce Anderson. From all of us here at GHS TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.